Good morning and welcome to Brewing Happiness. Grab your cup and let's have a chat. Wouldn't it be great? Let's start with a question. Wouldn't it be great if everything was great? Wouldn't it be lovely to be happy all the time? And as the Queen of Happiness, sometimes that's what people think that I propose, or I'm a proponent of happy all the time, but that's not realistic, is it? We'd love to believe that we could be happy all the time, but we know it's not true. That's okay. The question is, where does this leave us in unhappy times or in a difficult situation? Now, okay, I don't know. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, that's going to share my screen. I don't know. Anyway, I quote sometimes from one of my favorite books, The Road Less Traveled by Dr. M. Scott Peck. And one of the reasons I liked this book was it was so realistic, because the first line of the book is, life is difficult. And the rest of the book is about expecting it to be difficult and dealing with the difficulties, and stop setting yourself up by disappointment by having the unrealistic expectation that things are going to be lovely all the time in your life, and then acting, shocked and surprised and disappointed when things go wrong. Dr. Peck's answer was, well, that's kind of life. So when things go right, yay, we celebrate. But when things go wrong, we prepare, we acknowledge, and we accept. So, yeah, that kind of goes in line with a version of happiness, or I should say a definition of happiness that I loved and read by Eckhart Tolle in A New Beginning, I believe was the name of that book. In it, Mr. Tolle says that happiness has 3 levels, that we can be extraordinarily happy, in the zone, ecstasy, the highest level of happiness there is. This is when you're in union with your source, when you're in union with your partner, when you are in union with nature, and you are having a moment so overwhelming, you're in ecstasy. Those moments are awesome, but they're kind of few and far between, right? They don't happen all the time. And then there's enjoyment, as we're having this morning, sharing a cup of coffee, talking about difficult times, not difficult at all, right? This is enjoyment. We're enjoying ourselves, and that's lovely. And that's the second stage. But then there's the third stage. This is where Dr. Peck comes in. Life is difficult. This is when we want to be happy, but circumstances are not our friend. When we have to deal with real disappointment or real pain of some sort. It sucks, but it's real life, right? It sucks, but we know that is life. So how do you deal with it in those times when indeed it is difficult, right? When you're not in ecstasy or flow, when you're not in enjoyment or happiness or easy, when you are in the difficult moments, how do you deal with that? Well, one way you could deal with that is with the complete understanding that it can always be worse. That's one of the ways I cope with it. And here's a quick story. I worked at a corporate office, and as you know, if you've worked in Cubeville in a corporate office ever, the powers that be like to move the cubes. For whatever reason, you move sometimes. So I had to move cubes. And I had packed up my things, and I was scheduled to move the next day. And I had a box that was full of treasures, things that I had collected over the years that people who worked for me had brought me as gifts, or I'd gotten in meetings. Most of them were work-related, but they all had a nice memory with them. There was a Korean hat that a friend had brought me when she traveled to Korea, and a pair of Dutch shoes, little ceramic Dutch shoes that a visiting co-worker from Holland had brought. I had a snow globe from Peru, just some very precious things that I kept in my office, and they were packed up, and I wrote on the box, break. The next day I came in to move and that box was missing, along with the other box of trash called basura. Basura in Spanish, trash, right? So we wrote basura on the trash boxes. And I realized that someone had been confusing breakable things. Or, I don't know, for whatever reason, the box was gone. I was livid. I got on the phone with facilities and maintenance. I had them searching the warehouse. How could you take this box of things out of here? I was beside myself. I yelled at the guy. I was like, you need to find this for me. I had the guys digging in the warehouse. I was wrong. They took my stuff that meant something to me. So I head down to my new cube. And my cube is sitting right next to my friend Fei Li, who had just, at 6 months pregnant, been diagnosed with breast cancer. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, like God knocking me in the head. Let's talk about problems, Tina. Let's talk about things to be upset about. And Fei Li, oh my gosh, was so positive and so cheerful all the time. That was indeed a life lesson. Now, the good news is she postponed her treatment. Her son was born. She had treatment for her breast cancer. Everything turned out great. But the lesson was unmistakable. Things could always be worse. So when you're in a tough times, be grateful that it's not worse. That the other things that could have happened didn't happen. That's one of the ways, excuse me, we're going to deal with unpleasant news, right? There's nobody got nothing. Everybody got a bag of stuff, right? Everybody's got their challenges. But how do you get through those moments that last forever, that seem like they last forever, where there seems to be no end in sight? Well, resilience is the name of the game. Resilience is our ability to comfortably live with or accept without spiraling down into the negative, low energy emotions of stress, of anger, of frustration. Now, that unhappiness, it doesn't mean you don't feel those things, right? Let's be really clear. Acceptance doesn't mean that you're happy or that bad feelings go away or that you just go, oh, here's my happy pill, or I'm going to be happy today. That's not the way it works, right? So what that means is resilience means you feel those emotions, you live through the tough times, you do what you need to do, and you still hold your head up and you don't allow yourself to descend into the morass of emotional distress, right? Where the emotions take over, where you no longer have rational, logical thought, where emotion, and we've all been there, where emotions are so overwhelming, they shut us down, right? So, living through tough times builds our resilience. The more you live through, overcome, keep on keeping on, when things are not going your way, you are building your backlog of resilience, right? It allows us to be able to carry the weight, to be able to carry the weights of the world, even though our path is full of cracks and splits and pebbles and obstacles, right? So, sure, now here's another thing. Some of us are more sensitive than others. Some of us some of us are better able to deal with tough times than others right off the bat. That's not fair. You know what? Some of us are better athletes than others. Some of us are more funny than others. Some of us are more prone to the flu than others. That's life, right? We're not all the same. Life's not fair. So step one, understand where are you on the scale right now? Something you deal with and it's really not a problem for you? Move on. Or, I get shut down every time bad news comes my way. Or somewhere in the middle. As always, the first thing is understand, where are you? And, truthfully, we're not all, like I said, we're not all the same. Maybe you never really needed to develop this resilience before. Maybe when something new and bad or something worse than you've had to deal with happens, you're unprepared because you haven't had to deal with it before. Okay, here we go. This is why we're talking about this, right? Because it's something, resilience is something we need. And if we have it, we need to have it better. And if we don't have it, we need to get some. So here we go. Number one. Oh, well, there's no numbers, no order, but practice acceptance. I know. This sounds a little bit like a trick question, right? Or a trick answer. To learn acceptance, I have to practice acceptance, but I can't practice it because I don't have any, right? Well, okay, understood. But you're practicing acceptance because there is no power, there is no solution, there is no moving forward in staying in the problem, in stewing or worrying or fretting over what is wrong. There's no gain from staying in the problem. But in asking questions like, why did this happen to me? What if this had never happened? Hey, maybe this didn't really happen. Denial, right? That's not helping. And it's really just draining you of your energy and the resources that you might use to deal with whatever's going on. Accepting the problem frees up your mind to think about the solution because you stopped stewing on the problem. Okay, this is a problem. Okay, this sucks. Okay, I got to deal with this. And then focus on the things within your control. Again, most of the things we fret about and worry about and spend time reeling in negative emotions about are things we cannot control. If we could control them, we'd be thinking about what we were going to do about them, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a list of everything we can't control. Write it out. All the things you worry about, all the things that are causing you stress that you have no control over. And then I want you to hold this list and give yourself permission to accept that you can't change it. A lot of things in life you can't change. And if we make ourselves crazy about those things because we stress because we can't change them, or we stress because we want to change them, or we're going to try and change them, but we know we can't change them, sounds very stressful inducing to me. So give yourself permission to accept that they're out of control. And then let go of that list. You can use visual trips. Burn it. Set fire to it. Put it in an ashtray. Burn it up. Or stick it in a trash can. Just stick it in the bottom of a trash can. Flush it down the toilet. It doesn't matter. Let it go. Let it go because you've accepted that these things are there and you're going to deal with them, but they're out of your control. So there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to fix, right? Accept your feelings. These may not be your happiest feelings, or they may not be your favorites. Recently, I had something really disappointing happen to me. It wasn't a horrible situation because it only involved money. My mom always says, if you can solve your problem with money, it's not really a problem. So it was a money problem. But it was really disappointing. I was hurt and disappointed and a little ashamed and a little frightened. All those things came up. And I cried. And I was thinking to myself, talking about these things every day on your show, you kind of have to put them into practice, right? You kind of have to. I don't talk about things I don't do. I research ideas and then I try them out. So I was blessed with an opportunity to try out some of the new ideas that I've been learning about as I do my research and bring these ideas to you. And so I just sat and felt lousy for a couple of hours. I knew I felt lousy. I examined my feelings. I cried a little bit. I watched TV and cried at things that, you don't normally cry about. But I knew there were just some things inside of me that needed to come out. And so I just sat and tried to put a name to all the different. I came up with labels for all the things I was feeling. It was a very long list, and I cried a little bit. And I said to myself, "This wasn't fun. It wasn't good. You deserved it. It's okay to be disappointed. That's an appropriate response. It's okay to be sad because it was a little bit of something I thought that didn't happen. So those were all appropriate emotions. And so I told myself, I'm going to feel lousy tonight. And then I'm going to go to bed. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to feel better. And so I laid in bed and felt lousy. Just tried to feel it. Just tried to understand how the heaviness I felt in my body, the pain in my head, the sinus from crying, right? Emotional pain has physical results. And so I just tried to identify them and feel them. And then I woke up the next day and didn't go away. My problem wasn't any different the next morning, but I accepted it. I said, well, this happened, and I'm moving on. I feel like having that time to really to cry, to feel my emotions, to explore them with my thoughts. It was very freeing. I felt like I was absolutely able to walk away from those emotions because I knew them. I had made, well, not friends, but made acquaintances with them. I invited them to stay for a while because all my whole life I've been an excellent repressor. I'll think about that tomorrow. So, acknowledge them. Yes, this sucks. I am very sad. No repressing. No repressing. You can put on a brave face, right? Putting on the brave face, but only to get through the party. Fake it till you make it is a strategy that works for a short time for a situation, but it's not a lifestyle. You can't just go on pretending that there's nothing wrong forever. But if you got to get through work today, that's all right. Here's another thing. Seek comfort from those you know will comfort you. It's okay not to tell everyone everything, especially if you don't think you're going to get back from them what you're looking for. You know who they are. We all know who those people are. And some of them are even related to us. So it's okay. You don't have to go to them for comfort. There's someone you know will wrap their arms around you, give you the sympathy and the hug and the comfort that you need. Seek those people out. Don't rob yourself of their comfort because you don't want to ask. And don't rob yourself of it by asking someone who's incapable of giving you what you know you need. And this is the time for self-care. Negative emotions are exhausting. So rest. Take some time for yourself. It's okay to process slowly. You don't have to get over everything in 1 minute. It's all right. You get to move from point A to point B when you are ready. Everyone's pace. Everyone has their own pace. But speaking of pace, here's another good thought. Exercise. Get out and take a walk. You want to get out of your head, get your body moving. Get out, take a walk. Oh, good morning, Debbie. Get out, take a walk, get to moving, exercise. Another thing you can do is, because sometimes we become contemplative, right, is look for the lessons. What can you learn? What can you learn from this experience? What can you do differently the next time? Maybe you don't even see a lesson, but maybe you were playing the part in someone else's lesson. So you just don't know. You don't know what happens or what the outcomes are all around you. That's all right. What can you do differently? What can you avoid? Maybe, what is going on here? Why can't I? Technical difficulties. All right, hold on 1 second. I know what's wrong. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. So what can you do? What can you do to avoid this next time? What can you do differently? So be grateful for the experience. Even if it hurt, even if it was not fun, even if it was distressful and trying, be grateful. You got something from it. If nothing, you put a little energy in your resilience bag to pull out the next time you need it. You puffed it up. You got something else to say. I lived through that, right? Maybe you were instrumental in someone else's lesson. You don't know. Be grateful. I'm grateful that this happened because someone learned a lesson here. Be grateful for the experience, even if you're not sure what the lesson is yet. Maybe you won't realize it till years later. That's happened to me lots of times. I learned a lesson and didn't know I learned it till years later when I was smart enough to realize what actually happened. So be grateful. Celebrate small wins. Savor small successes. Small moments of beauty, of love. A good cup of coffee in the morning. The love of your pet. A good book. Be kind to yourself. Don't pile on. When you're dealing with tough, rough things, stop blaming yourself. You don't need your own recriminations on top of how you already feel. So be nice to yourself. Accept yourself. Love yourself for where you are right now. And if you can't get to where you want to go, if you're having trouble letting go, forgiving, forgetting, love yourself for wanting to let it go. Give yourself a win for the incremental of having the honest objectivity to want to make it better. You're a good person right there. You'll get there. It's okay if you don't get there right now. Lean into your spiritual beliefs and connections, right? Prayer. Accept the comfort offered. Pray for angels to come and wrap you in the warmth of their wings. Or be creative. Use your arts and crafts. Much art is created from angst. It's a good time to get out the paints, right? Or maybe sports. Go out and throw the basketball at the house 100 times, right? These are the ways we work through our distress. My mom always said, everything is temporary. Good, bad. Everything is temporary. Everything has its time. Everything will come, it will live, and it will move on. So, as they say, this too shall pass. So, you've overcome challenges before. You're stronger than you think. You're more resilient than you know. Focus on those strengths. Remember the times you've overcome tough challenges. Don't be afraid to ask for help. This life, it's just a learning experience. So I'm going to end with a poem today. One of my favorites that I think says everything we've talked about today. Oh, hold on one second again as I'm making it so I don't have to put my glasses on, basically. Okay. Let's see. All right, here we go. It's called Not the Lesson. Excuse me. When things are good and times are high, we seldom stop to question why or take the chance to jeopardize the sweet release that bliss supplies. No questions asked or analyzed as current pleasures tantalized, forgotten in felicity and joys found in simplicity. To bask in moments purely grand, oblige no urge to understand. And though as much as any soul I love the moment's happiness, I also know at times we stroll along the anguish of distress. When days are dark and all is lost, we're forced to face what most we fear of what we have and what it cost, and to which values we adhere. As patience, strength, and faith are tested, future wisdoms all are vested. Lessons learned we grow beyond, expand our lives, and break the bonds of chains we make of limitations, rejecting all their implications, unaware that tribulations often lead to inspirations. Pain and suffering rarely seen is not the lesson, but the mean. So revel when the glory days bring joy and sunshine across your course. Diminish not the happy ways you join in union with your source. But in times when hope seems far away, when grace and courage are required, take heart that what you give today is not half as much as you've acquired. All right, that's our show for today. Hey, you like the poem? Send me an IM and I will send you a copy. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, anyway, that's our day. Make it a happy day and go out and have some happiness today. Tough or not, smile. People will wonder what you're up to.